Hello everyone, welcome to CGTN special live stream of Davos 2025. I'm Wang Tianyu. And today I'm physically sitting in a studio in Beijing, but virtually as you can see around me, I'm already on the scene of the beautiful town of Davos in Switzerland. As the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, also known as Davos meeting, is approaching, we're so excited to have you join us as we explore the role of youth leadership and their voices in the world stage. Today, we are grateful to have three wonderful guests to discuss this topic with us. They are Francois Bonnici, the head of Foundations of World Economic Forum. Hi there.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
I know it's very early in your time zone. Thank you for getting up early. And also, we have two young global shapers joining us. They are Poppy and Shehrbano. Poppy Zidan Chen is from Shanghai, China. She is the curator of the Global Shapers Shanghai One Hub, which is one of the earliest global shapers hub established in China. So Poppy, tell us more about yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's Poppy from Shanghai. Really happy to be here and speak to you guys.
Thank you. And Shehrbano Jamali Niazi is from Pakistan. Correct me if I pronounce your name wrong. She's the current curator of Global Shapers Hub in the country's capital, Islamabad. Welcome, Shehrbano.
Thank you for having me, and good morning from Islamabad.
I've been to Islamabad 2 years ago. It's a beautiful city. And to give you some ideas of Global Shapers, it is a worldwide community of active change makers across more than 500 local hubs. For over a decade, thousands of Global Shapers have worked together on so many local projects to help their communities worldwide. From environmental protection to social justice, these young folks are leading actions across the world and solving insufficiently addressed challenges in their communities. So, it is a group of young pioneers. Well, welcome guys. Today our discussion will be revolved around how young people can engage in decision making. To all of you, our live streaming session is a space for learning, discussion, and exchanging ideas. So feel free to openly share your thoughts and don't hesitate to interrupt me or add your input. So let's begin with one simple question. Who are the youth? Why don't we start from Francois? What do you think the youth are?
Thank you so much. I think we should really be asking Poppy and Shehrbano to give that message, and that's what we do at the Global Shapers, is really try to give youth a voice. You know, of course, there are different definitions in the Global Shapers community. We have an incredible number, more than 10,000 young people who are active Global Shapers under the age of 30. But that's our definition, you know, but that is really a way to bring together young people from across the world in more than 500 hubs in over 150 countries. And really, it's a way to give a platform to young people around the world who are already bringing hope, but also bringing action into the 21st century. And for us as the World Economic Forum, it's incredibly important to bring these voices together to our annual meeting, which will be happening in just a few days. And we're delighted to welcome Poppy and Shehrbano as part of the Global Shapers delegation, because the voice of young people and the actions of young people needs to be heard and seen by world leaders. So we're delighted to have them with us, but I'm really going to let them tell you what youth is about.
Yeah, that's correct. So Poppy and Shehrbano, what do you guys think the definition of youth are?
I personally believe, Mr. Klaus Schwab has framed it very aptly. Who are the youth? We are the future leaders, yes, but we are also the change makers of today. And what does that mean? We are the generation that is witness to the evolving ground realities. We are the future who is witnessing the global crises right now. So that really is the youth. And when I look at it as from a Global Shapers community perspective, we are a collective strength, and we're a collective strength of more than 30,000 active alumni and global shapers from all around the world, scattered in 150 countries and in 500 different cities around the world. So that power, that collective strength, the change makers of today, the leaders of tomorrow, and the energy of the future is right now, and this is us as global shapers. So I really think that what is the youth.
So any ideas from Poppy So I know the global shapers are normally aged from 18 to 30, I believe, right? So I'm 28, so I think I'm the youth, right?
Oh yeah, of course. And I think they really gave a really good answer. And just to add on that, I believe like from our age, we call it the Gen Z generation. Like for us, it is more really about living a meaningful life, and also we grew up in a pretty abundant um, life. That the point of building an impact and also creating really meaningful change in a society really matters to us a lot. So, which makes youth voice more important nowadays than before. We really want to make a change through our voices. Yeah.
So first of all, I know that your organization, the World Economic Forum, has just published a Global Shapers Impact Report on young people in decision making. And you're the one in charge of this report. So tell us, what are some of the highlighted findings, Francois?
Thank you so much. So indeed, this is a report really based on a survey of more than 4,000 young people. So this is really their report and their voice. It's called Engaging Young People in Decision Making and Enabling Active Citizenship. Really, so what it's about is it draws on insights and the ideas of young people and their opinions and their actions from 142 countries, including rural areas, urban areas, remote islands, refugee camps. And so it makes it one of the most diverse global sets of data on the youth agenda. It emphasizes including young people's voices in shaping the future. And some of the key headlines that I think are actually surprising, because it is a very complex time and there are many, many challenges, some urgent challenges, some long-term challenges in the world. But despite those challenges, 83% of young people still see the world as full of opportunities. But interestingly as well, they're now feeling 74% of them feel empowered to actually act on pressing issues, which is different from before. I think we're seeing a much more empowered generation of young people. They're not waiting necessarily for other leaders to change things. And so they're feeling relatively positive despite the challenges in the world, like climate change, like inequality, like economic opportunities. What we also learned was that youth-led projects focus on some really critical areas, and maybe we haven't really started to speak about that yet, but the Global Shapers are not only a voice, but they actually undertake active projects, some locally, some regionally, some globally, to tackle the changes that they feel are needed. And so in our survey of more than 4,000 young people, we see these projects focus on about a third on education and employment, about 25%, a quarter on environmental action, and about 14% on civic engagement. 63 of these youth-led initiatives actually achieved policy changes or legislative changes, which is very remarkable to see young people activating projects, but actually creating policy change. And 128 of these projects directly engaged local decision makers. So they're not only working amongst themselves, they're really working to change their societies, and they recognize that the pathways for change are working through some of the other actors and the other stakeholders, whether it be their governments or the markets in their society. I'll get to the last two highlighted points. 36% of the beneficiaries of youth-led projects belong to underrepresented groups, such as women and girls, minority groups, migrants, people with disabilities, etc. And so we also see that the Shapers community and young generation is a much more inclusive space. And there is a focus on bringing and building a really equitable and inclusive society.
Well,
finally, the youth employ some really important tactics like awareness raising. So 90% of projects do raise awareness in larger society. 88% take direct action, and they are looking to influence really important systems, whether they be of government or of the markets. So I'll leave it there, but in a world where we do feel there are many challenges, and of course we'll face these in the next week over the annual meeting, youth are bringing a really important positive outlook, but also action orientation, and empowerment to know that they can change, just like we heard Shehrbano say, not only in an individual way, but also really importantly in a collective way. Thank you.
Francois, as I went through the report before our panel very quickly. You're right, over 80% of the young people are optimistic of the future, of the opportunities. But you know, the report also shows that 68% of young people aspire to greater leadership roles, and 50% believe that they can influence decision making. This is a tricky number, half and half. So from your experiences, what barriers still prevent the youth from accessing these opportunities, and how can we address them?
Thank you so much. Indeed, I think we do want, and of course our platform is about creating pathways and giving platforms for future leaders and current leaders amongst young people. But of course, many barriers remain, right? If you look at many governments around the world, you don't necessarily see youth representation. That being said, there is progress. So we do see many countries now with younger people in parliament, younger people in positions of power, young ministers coming into place. So I think that creates role models, because I think a lot of the barriers are perception around the next generation, perceptions that young people are not experienced enough, and yet they bring some really important ideas. So I think it is the ongoing work to showcase young people, what they are doing, what they can do, the potential they have, and creating role models and creating platforms is part of our job to do that. I'm sure there are many other barriers as well. Of course, there is not equality amongst young people, and so ensuring that no matter their income level or where they are from, there are still these opportunities for leadership. So there are other barriers, like economic barriers for participating and getting on leadership tracks, barriers to education, etc. But I think one of the major ones really remains perception and awareness, and real understanding of what the young generation should be offering and should have a place at the seat at the table as we're thinking about and planning the future.
All right, thank you, Francois. And let's move to Shehrbano. Shehrbano, your hub won the Innovation Prize for addressing climate governance. So could you share how your work on local government responses to climate emergencies embodies the action-oriented leadership emphasized in the report?
Thank you for that. In 2022, Pakistan witnessed mass floods. Despite only being 1% of contributing to the emissions, Pakistan is one of the top 8 vulnerable communities. So what we realized when 1/6 of Pakistan was underwater was that the systemic vulnerabilities of governments, institutions really did come to light. But within those barriers, there was also opportunities which I believe the youth brought forward. At Global Shapers community in Pakistan, we were able to support 30,000 families, because what we realized was that the non-state champions, the youth, the volunteers, these organizations, they understood what the communities needed rather than assuming what they needed. And they came forward and maneuvered and made sure that the communities were getting what they needed while supporting the government as well. So over there, we realized that if we put our heart to it, we're able to achieve anything. And because we're so familiar with the communities and and speaking to them with what they need, and also understanding and using innovation and tools today that today's generations are so acclimatized to and are consistently, adopting newer ways of thinking and approaches and methodologies. I think that is where the government and, we were celebrated for that when we realized that, within climate governance, when all else fails, there are still going to be those non-state actors. And I think that is exactly what youth optimism is all about, realizing that we are able to achieve anything within our collective strength and within this global mindset that we are going to have to live with the outcomes. And so today's, decision making, it's so equally important for us to come forward and not just have a seat at the table, but rather to ensure that our perspectives are included. When we think about some of what Francois just mentioned, that, leaders today are very hesitant and think that, the youth might not be as wise to be coming into those decision-making roles and coming forward to, help communities. I frankly think, there's a convergence of best practices and interplay of perspectives where the youth of today is actually committed to accelerating that level of action of, efforts that have already been done. So we are going to ensure that we avoid groupthink that we have become so comfortable with. So I think when we really look at the impact that the Global Shapers community, this is all it really takes to, to show up for your community, to identify those systemic vulnerabilities, and to showcase to governments and businesses around the world that the future is the youth. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course, that's great stuff to hear. And also, Poppy, you are the Chief Sustainability Officer in your company. How do you see the private sector empowering youth-led initiatives and fostering collaboration for systemic change?
Thank you for your question. So yeah, my role in my company is actually doing sustainability-led strategy and also helping the company to transform into a greener one. So a lot of the thing actually we're doing is about really initially is about converting or helping the older generation to kind of transfer their minds between only making profits to actually thinking about how to create both business and social value at the same time. And I believe during this process, the youth voices actually play a very important role. Just give an example, like in our company, we actually set up a youth group, which is made up of the Gen Z employees who are really pro sustainability and who really want to make a change in the company. And we have monthly meetings as well as trainings to teach all these employees about, like what is ESG about and how do you actually incorporate that into your daily job. And because they're so passionate about this topic, they actually in their daily work, they actually also spread it to their surrounding employees and also try to apply that into their own work. So I think that's something that I really see is a big difference compared to like our youth group compared to, the last generation. So yeah, just give an example on that.
That's wonderful. We have already seen a change. So first, the question is back to you again about the report. So, it highlights collaboration opportunities, but only 15% of the youth changemakers engage with the private sector and 12% with the governments. So what are the gaps in these partnerships and how can we bridge them?
Thank you so much. Of course, this is an increasingly important area because it's not helpful only if young people are gathering amongst themselves, but not bridging the gap to make that message heard and to create the partnerships. So I do think we see it increasing. It remains at a modest level, but this is part of the purpose and the platform of what the forum is to provide. And of course, next week we will have 50 young global shapers engaging with leaders of business and leaders of government around the world. But this also needs to happen at a local level, which is why building the hubs in the way that Shehrbano and Poppy are doing is critically important, because it gives recognition and it gives then a place and a platform for government and business to actually connect with young people, understand their opinions, understand their perspectives, understand their experiences and what they need to build to make a better pathway for young people in the world, and to learn and to change what they do. So it will continue to be a long road, but it is we believe that the Shapers structure and the system which is being built by young people gives that platform for partnerships to be created. I think increasingly we're seeing business be very open to young people. We see them creating youth advisory boards. We see them bringing young people to be represented on their boards. We see them consulted in different ways. And I think more and more of these examples will provide other businesses and governments to understand ways in which they can include young people into the core business of what they do. Of course, governments, some in the world have youth parliaments, and we have many shapers involved. We know recently at the G20 in Brazil, we had many global shapers involved in some of the formal structures as well, some of the official working groups and task forces of the G20. We had global shapers in almost every working group of the G20. And so it's starting and it's beginning, but I think finding concrete structural ways to have young people involved in the mechanisms of government and business is a really important step, rather than only thinking of them as either consumers or voters. And I think that's what we working towards.
All right, thank you. So my next question is to you all, but I think probably the two young global shapers may have more to say on this. So what are the what examples have you seen of successful partnerships between the youth-led initiatives and the private or public sectors? What lessons can be scaled globally? Maybe we start from Poppy.
So I think because I'm representing not just Shanghai Hub, but also like the Greater China area. So actually there are a lot of interesting projects that we have been doing in the past. Just to give an example, like when people asking like, the Chinese shapers, what can you do to actually influence the policy making? There's actually something that I want to bring up that is quite interesting. That was held in 2024. Like it's actually held by the Haikou Hub. So they are actually collaborating with the local government to hold forums related to green finance as well as green energy. And they invited 50 shapers, not just from Haikou, but also across China and across Asia to join this event. And during these, it's a 3 days forum plus a company visiting. They invited all these influential young leaders to the local energy sectors, companies, and also on the last day, they did a workshop relating to how do all these shapers from different sectors to collaborate and to form a project that can help with to help the local policy from to change in the future. So there's actually it's quite essential to me because I think policy changing and policy changing according to the listening to the youth voices is essential. Yeah, so just an example on that.
Mm-hmm. So Shehrbano, do you have anything you want to share?
No, absolutely. And I think something that, the report really mentions is the dissatisfaction of the youth today in being prepared for the job market. So, the report extensively mentions how the youth of today are very dissatisfied because they're overqualified and feel unprepared for the market. So at the Islamabad Hub and our Innovation Grand Prize, we introduced an initiative called Career Counseling for All. And what happened there was we designed programs to ensure that high school students and middle school students are aware of the evolving job markets, the dynamic world that we live in, and they have the adequate tools to be better prepared for the job markets. But in our work, we realized two things. We equally realized the importance of that top-down push in government schools. So what we did was we went to a meet with the Ministry of Education and we iterated that, we would like to go to these schools and conduct these career counseling sessions and guidance. And to date, we have impacted over 800. But I think over there, the leadership, the ministry did realize that these are the youth who identify the challenges on the ground, who are experiencing this job satisfaction and are best fit and placed to actually introduce the interventions that they want, which is tailored to the needs today, including the innovative and diverse market we work in. But equally, we realize that, a bottom approach is very important, understanding what the community needs, because ultimately they are our eyes on the ground and are consistently living with this ground reality. So, community organizations like the Global Shapers are doing exactly that. We are bridging also this gap between ministries and the government, but also local organization and communities as non-profit organizations. But yes, of course, I absolutely think that there is more to be done in the private sector, because ultimately a lot of the countries in the world are moving towards strategic foresight and policy, preparing for the future of the world and future possibilities. And over there, I think it's very important for governments and the business sector to realize that our perspective is equally important to bring in and accelerate the change that we want to see in the future and today and tomorrow.
Thank you for sharing. That's very great insights. And let's get back to the report. With 36% of the youth-led initiatives focusing on the underrepresented groups, how do you guys view the inclusivity as a driver for innovation and impact for change? Francois?
Sure, I'll start. I think it's critical. I think we know there's very strong research that shows diversity increases creativity and innovation. I mean, this is worldwide research. And I think inclusion is part of that diversity because that's what intentionally we seek to do. And I think inclusion doesn't happen without intention. The reality is commercial and market-based networks are relatively close to those who have education, privilege, power. And I think if we actually want to unleash more creativity and more innovation that works for more people and the planet, we need to be intentional about building the bridges, about bringing in different perspectives. And of course, that's our mission, but we see this around the world. In my previous life, I was a professor in inclusive innovation, and we know that there are various elements and levels to which we think about inclusion. So inclusion can be, we will consult people, we will consult a young group, or we will consult a group of disabled people, or we will consult a group of young women, or we will consult people. And that only gets us that far. Different people need to be involved in the creativity and design process. They need to own part of the process, and they need to own and have a stake in the outcomes. And so innovation and creativity will see more opportunities. And I think we have good examples across the Shapers community coming from different groups working together. And we really see that hubs that start to work across countries, across rural and urban areas have developed some really important and incredible projects, mixing the perspectives they have from the grassroots with the technology that might be brought from kind of more well-off areas. So I'll let Poppy and Shehrbano jump in as well, but I think it's something we feel very strongly about, but we're also seeing on a daily basis, and it's backed up by the research.
Yeah, of course. Shehrbano, anything you want to say about this inclusion?
Absolutely. And I think the most important part of inclusion and diversity is to avoid that groupthink. I think for far too long, leaders around the world have been emulating practices and decisions of other leaders. And I think this is, through, like Francois said, that through these diverse perspectives, we're able to get very tailored and very multicultural ideas. It brings out our creativity and how multifaceted we are. I go around and I tell everyone that in today's world, diversity is a choice, but inclusion diversity is a fact, but inclusion is a choice. And we have to be very careful of not emulating leaders. Really truly understanding inclusion. Are we just including people as bystanders and making sure they're represented, or are we giving them spaces to be able to lead and actually ensure that their perspectives are included? So I think another thing that I do want to iterate is that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we also have to make sure that individuals who are experienced with challenges and communities who are at the forefront of these challenges should equally have a role in speaking about today's challenges that we experience. So yes, I do think that is something we need to actively make an effort towards, because ultimately today's generation is really asking to see those actions. I feel like we've said a lot about inclusion and diversity, but now we need to see that diversity in businesses, in governments, in our youth organization. And I think it's something for businesses and governments to reflect on and really put an active effort towards.
Yes, we did mention about the diversity and inclusion many times. So Poppy, anything from you?
Yeah, I think it's we actually from Shanghai Hub, we actually did a lot of projects related to inclusion and diversity. I actually want to bring two examples. One is about how do shapers play a part in this, and the other one is how do companies actually play a part in DEI. So for shapers from Shanghai One Hub, we actually held a project called the Embodied Moment, and this is actually essentially helping the deaf communities to connect with the able hearing communities through dance workshops. And in 2024, we actually held 13 workshops, and we invited over 400 participants to join our workshops. And the reason we're doing this is because we realize these are the group of people who are really unseen from the society. And for example, for me, I really didn't know how do deaf people dance, but actually there are a lot of great dancers. And actually through these workshops, we're able to bond with each other and also see the needs and also the world of the other side. And this really helps to bring up, foster inclusive community through very innovative ways. And the second example I want to bring up is it's revolving around my daily job in the private sector. How do we improve the DEI in companies? Because when all the companies are talking about how do we improve the female representatives in the senior leadership positions, it is hard to actually make a change in the company, because the C-suite will always ask, so why we're doing this, and how does it actually bring us more profit, or how does our company grow in a better way. And so we actually I went to some research papers, and there are actually studies about by prompting employers to advertise flexible work, as well as flexible work, especially flexible work jobs available to the female workers. It will increase the flexible jobs by 20%, and these would attract 30% more applicants during the process. And by doing flexible work and also be more flexible to the female employees, and it will actually enlarge the pool of talents during the application process. So these are the ways that we are trying to bridge the gap between purely DI numbers to actually to create to see the real change in a company. And just in our company per se, we are trying to also improve the well-being of the working moms, because they actually handle a lot of stress, not just from work, but also from the family.
Yeah.
And by providing the workshops to them, it helps them to actually to perform better in the workplace as well. Yeah.
Well, that's great stuff. We do want to see a more and more inclusive and diverse world. Thank you for sharing, Poppy. So as we're running out of time, so I want to conclude our panel with one last question. As all of you guys are going to go to the Davos meeting this year in the next couple of days, so what do you expect the most at this year's Davos meeting? So why don't we start from Shehrbano?
Absolutely. I think first of all, I'm so grateful to be able to represent the Global Shapers community, and particularly Pakistan, at a time where, there's so much challenges, whether that be climate related, socioeconomic, political conflicts around the world. But I think the most important of it all is really to ensure that we're not just bringing the players to the table, but that the players, the youth of today, is actively involved in those decision making, to make businesses and governments realize that we are only trying to accelerate the action and to avoid groupthink, and to provide a space to sometimes provide the space to offer opinions and perspectives that sometimes we don't see at the community level. So really, I think that is really the ambition here, to make everyone realize that communities and volunteer organizations are sometimes bridges between the communities and governments and businesses, and how important their representation at these events can be.
So Poppy, what do you have to say? What do you expect at this year's Davos meeting?
Yeah, so as a Chinese shaper, I think what the Chinese are really good at doing, but not as good as talking. So what I really want to achieve is really showcasing what are some innovative products and ways we can do to engage private and public sectors. But at the same time, also very interested in learning about how do we create more climate related projects in the communities, because this is what we are lacking of right now. So yeah, I really am there to learn.
And what about you, Francois?
Thank you so much. Of course, we are welcoming 3,000 world leaders, and it's always an exciting time. It's always an important time to kick off the year. The theme of this annual meeting is collaboration for the intelligent age. And I think you can't have an intelligent age without young people, and collaboration can't happen without young people. So we're very excited to bring this delegation of Davos 50, the Shapers, Poppy, Shehrbano. We're so looking forward to seeing you in person and bringing young people to be part of the really important dialogues that happen around the complex issues of our world, the great opportunities, but also the challenges we face. That future is for young people. And so we're really excited that, Poppy, as you say, you're not only out there doing, but you're really coming to share those perspectives. So we hope to hear a very vocal group of Davos 50 shapers all over the annual meeting, involved in every topic from artificial intelligence to driving a more equal world to building climate solutions. So I really am excited. We're all on our way in just a day or two. And we're delighted to have this amazing group of young people come and share with us their lives, their perspectives, but also represent those 30,000 other shapers around the world and alumni that Shehrbano spoke about. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, that's very exciting to expect. So all right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today for this inspiring discussion. It's so great to hear all of these incredible insights from you guys. And we hope that our audiences will leave with fresh ideas and perspectives. So before we go, I want to give my point of the view after today's panel. You know, the change starts with every one of us, whether it's through small actions or big initiatives. Your voice and effort matter. And I think that's aligned with what the World Economic Forum is always trying to convey. I hope I can see you guys in Davos in the next couple of days and face to face. And once again, thank you to our speakers and everyone who tuned in. We'll have more coverage of this year's Davos meeting, so stay tuned and take care, and we'll see you next time.